Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val.
And we are here. We want to first, before we do anything, we want to plug this event that we have coming up on the 29th and talk about it and remind you folks that it's happening and what it's all about. We are getting together. Tracy, you want to explain what we're doing and why and how? And
Yeah, so we're getting together at the Midway. Our friend Bill is allowing us to host a Halloween party on Friday, October 29th. We're going to start at 7 p.m. We're going to have some trivia with multiple rounds. We'll have raffles. Just by showing up, you get a raffle ticket. And then if you want to buy additional raffle tickets, all proceeds for the raffle and other things we're doing that night are going to go to the American Cancer Society. Raising money. I'm running for them in the Dopey Challenge, which is at Walt Disney World in January, where we do a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon over 4 days. So we're raising money for that. We're going to have a beer run where we'll have like a flight of beers that you can just sample. There's going to be a chicken run for those that don't drink. Proceeds from that will be to the American Cancer Society. We're going to have karaoke. It's going to be a fun night.
now, if you do want to do the beer run and the chicken run, you can, right? Like it's not just for people who don't drink, right?
Right,
And there's
exactly.
actually no running involved.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the best
also
part.
important. That's also important to note because the chicken run sounds appealing to me.
The best
You have
part
to
of,
get
the best part of running is the night before when you get to carb load.
yeah.
That's the best part by far.
So that's what we're doing, a Halloween party to help support Tracy in running in January, and we're going to eat like Tracy is running the next day.
Right. Exactly. Because after the race, you're like, just give me, like the day before and the day of after you're done. It's like, just give me all the food. It's great.
Yeah. Which makes running in Disney World probably really nice because there's a lot of really good food to have when you're down there. So
There are people who drink around the world and will go to Epcot and sample drinks all the way around the World Showcase. And I'm like, that's not my deal, but I'll sample all the food on my way around. I'll get some stop for some fish and chips, and then I'll stop over in Japan and get something, and I'll stop in I can't remember, Morocco. There's a bunch of different countries.
yeah, Morocco, Norway.
Norway.
Germany.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have karaoke, dancing, trivia, raffle prizes. Bill is offering some great prizes. There'll be a costume contest. Val is kindly donating the Bloomhouse collection that she just got. And then we'll have a bunch of other prizes as well. But
I'm sure I have a lot of stuff in this room that's still in boxes that I could probably bring too. I'll bring a couple Star Wars things that I haven't played with yet.
So if you're a Disney fan, if you're a cool.
That's
An
very
X-Wing.
nice. Poe's
This
X-Wing.
is Poe's X-Wing number 12.
I like that.
Yep.
Nice.
Very nice.
But yeah, if you're a fan of the
keeping
show,
this one,
come
though.
down.
This one's
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta keep that ship. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
if you
if you're a friend of the show, come. If you like Halloween, come down. If you want to dress up in a costume, come down. Just come down.
yeah,
I like it because
be at the
I like
Midway
celebrating
concert.
Halloween and dressing up, but I'm not in that time of my life anymore where I want to go downtown with all of the young people
Yeah.
and get drunk and get groped all night. And what I like about the Midway is that I feel like it's just a neighborhood,
Hang
place
out.
to hang out. They have really good food. They don't you can go to that bar and not feel bad if you don't drink because they know that not everybody, they have nerd night there all the time. And people
They
go
do
just to hang
cosplay
out and sing
karaoke a lot.
karaoke and dress up. And so it's a really fun, safe place that you can just go hang out and you know that you're going to see people that you know that you like. It's just a nice, comfortable place. They also have a lot of dart boards there. They have pool tables. The outdoor area just got upgraded. So they have all of these awesome fireplaces outside.
Yeah, instead of those little
yeah.
heat lamps, they used to have those little heat lamps, and now they've got
But now they
really
have, like,
nice
actual
stone
fireplaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's for a very good cause. So we definitely want to see you come out and see if we can help Tracy raise some money for American Cancer Society. So it should be great. It's going
Come
to be a
on
lot of
by.
fun. Yeah. We'd love to see you. It's a great way to kind of wrap up October, because I mean,
And
there's
then
so
you can still do Halloween because it's on the 29th. So you still have the weekend to do whatever other things you want to do. But after work, come on by, get some food, hang out, do some trivia, have some fun.
Yep.
And I have to say, I'm going to break the magic really quick. This is recorded because today I am getting married when this show airs.
This day.
So tonight, I Tracy and Jake will have the link to the wedding ceremony, and if you guys want to post it, great.
Yes.
It's up to you guys, but it's going to be late because 5:15 in Oahu is like 9:15 here.
That's not late to anybody but you.
No, it's late. I don't know what you're talking about, Tracy. That's late.
But literally, the ceremony is going to be like 15 minutes. So,
but you get to see what Dave is wearing.
Oh my gosh, I still don't know.
You know, it's not going to be a typical tuxedo.
Tracy and I have
been hearing. Surprise us.
Yeah, he could surprise us, and he's just going to look stunning in like a really great tuxedo. But we've been hearing about what Dave could possibly be wearing because he's been teasing you with this for months now. So I think we're all anticipating to see what he comes up with.
And he's shown other people that are going to the wedding in front of me. He'll like show them. So I haven't seen it, but I get to see their reaction of like, oh, that's awesome. I can't believe you're doing that. Like, and then this one lady that he showed, she was like, oh, I think you need to talk to her about that. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what?
So that is a reason. I mean, obviously, that's a great reason to want to get in and see.
This may be the only wedding where the groom outshines the bride when it comes to.
Yeah, he's going to be peacocking. He's peacocking at the wedding.
Yeah, Tracy, you and I both know that's not true. We've seen Val's dress and it looked amazing, and she's
going to attempt it, but she's going to
look even more amazing.
Yes.
We are not a traditional couple. This is not a traditional wedding. We are not wearing traditional outfits.
You got to tell them about the flower humans.
Oh, I have flower humans. I have two of my favorite guys, and they will be wearing fun suits and fanny packs and throwing flowers out before I walk down the aisle.
It's going to be the wedding of the year, I think, is what I'm reading in
Well, thanks. That makes me nervous because I feel like we're leading up to something big, and then the movie sucks.
If this was a TV series, this would be the season finale.
Oh, for sure. Sure.
This is the series finale. After this, I don't know. We have lots of fun planned after this. I'm excited because in February, we're going to the North Pole. So
for Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we have lots of adventures to come.
Which is good because Santa will be less busy.
This is single Val series ending, and then we have the spin-off show of Married Val, and that'll be a whole different show.
I think it's funny, and I'm just going to go on a tangent for this for a minute. Like, a lot of people haven't contacted me since I have gotten engaged because they're like, you're planning a wedding. You just have too much to do. And I'm like, just sitting at home. Like, I'm already packed. I've been packed for 2 days, and I don't leave, for a while. And the wedding's been planned for a while. And then, like, a lot of people haven't contacted me because they're like, well, now you're getting married, so you have a guy, so you're just going to hang out with him, right? I'm like, listen, Val isn't any different with or without a man, except for that now I have a bonus person. It's an addition to my life. It doesn't take away from me still wanting to do the things. I just think it's such a weird mentality of, I don't know. I don't get it.
That's a good point.
It's true. And he's a great addition to your life. Dave's a great guy. The few times that we've gotten to talk to him.
Big fans of Dave.
And I can't wait to hear when you get back about what his scheme was with Sammy.
Yeah, they've been scheming. Oh yeah. Well, I'm going to share, when we're off the air, I'm going to show you guys what I got him for his wedding day present.
Ooh. Nice. Well,
we are so in the inner circle.
I know, it's kind of cool. I've never been in an inner circle before, so I don't want to mess it up. So
right? It's like be on your best behavior.
yeah,
Hands in
exactly. I don't
pocket.
want to screw this up.
It's super nerdy, and I because this isn't going to air till the wedding. It has something to do with this.
Ooh.
Ooh,
All right, I am totally
which is
intrigued.
the D&D.
yes,
That's cool.
the D&D. That was a dragon from Dungeons and Dragons there. So fun stuff. Well, I don't know how to top that. I mean, we're
With
talking
Dracula.
about a movie with Dracula. Yes, that's how we're going to top it. So what was interesting when we talked about doing Dracula, you guys were like, "Well, which one?" And I was like, "Well, the original, like the 1931 Bela
Mhm.
Lugosi, like Dracula, right?" And um, when we looked at a list, because there's a lot of Dracula movies,
So
and my
many.
wife found a list of like the best Dracula movies, so it ranked from the best to the worst, and this was actually number 2.
Nice.
Mhm.
I don't know how much I trust the list because Nosferatu was number 1, and I feel like okay, now I feel like
Nosferatu's awesome.
I think it's awesome in a different kind of way for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
For people
yeah.
that love the monster style movies, like what we talked about last week, I think that really started something because I think there's a huge percentage of people that once you hit like 9th to 10th grade and you discover Dracula, because I feel like every 20 years we get a new version of
Right,
like what Dracula is, whether it's a
right.
Dracula movie, whether it's Interview with the Vampire, whether it, like some kind of a vampire movie, something big happens every 20 years.
Mhm.
Um, and so for me, like the Dracula with Winona Ryder,
Yeah, Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Bram Stoker's Dracula came out when I was young, and then Interview with the Vampire was soon right there. I don't know if it was before or after, but that all came out like
It was around the same time, yeah.
around the same time. And so I was super into all of that. And so I
Mhm.
went back and I had already known about Nosferatu because we did have to do something like that in my 6th grade class where we had to create monsters or something, and they showed us a part of that, and I was like, scared the crap out of me.
Oh,
You guys
that
know, like
creature? Yeah, that you get the idea of Dracula, and it is based on the Bela Lugosi with the blackened
Right.
hair and the very dapper and debonair. Nosferatu looks like some kind of demon creature, and it's cool. It invented a whole genre of German expressionism. That's kind of what kicked off that phase. You got movies like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari that came out after that. Really cool angles in the film. They do a lot of like painted backgrounds where there's just these tight angles. And that creature is freaky as all get out.
and I feel like both that and the movie we're talking about today has been copied so many times in
Yeah.
every single Dracula based movie since then, because if you look at Dracula with Luke Evans,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that
um,
one.
that's actually, I really enjoyed it, but you kind of have a throwback to the Nosferatu in that film that he meets in the cave that helps him become Dracula to save
Okay.
his family. And so plus the armor and like just the costumes and the coloring of that film is really, really fantastic. But I feel like this is a genre, this Dracula vampire monster genre, that is always, always going to be popular. That's always going to be in style because it's so intriguing. And the story in most of these movies, especially with the Bram Stoker's Dracula and this Dracula, they're almost the same story.
Right.
And
right.
then when you get into Interview with the Vampire, they kind of bring back the researcher a little bit in that one, like they do in those two movies, which I find very interesting because it just works. Like
Mhm.
they created this thing that has worked for just years and years.
Yeah.
Well, and I many different ways you can take the all there.
Yeah. Are you there, Tracy? Can you see and hear us?
Oh,
You were
I
cutting
think I
out a little bit.
froze. Are we back?
You're a little
They're
choppy.
putting Google and I hope to get that. So I can switch over to my phone if you want.
Well, now you sound okay, but for a minute there, it was very much. Yeah, it might be good.
Let's try.
Yeah.
Let me move.
I'll make a Hotel Transylvania joke in the meantime. We don't say blah blah blah. That's one of my favorite things from that movie.
Yeah. I don't say blah blah blah. And what's amazing about Hotel Transylvania is Adam Sandler does a much better Dracula voice than I would have ever guessed that he could do. Like, I just would have never guessed that he'd be a good Dracula in any form. But this movie is 90 years old this year. It came out in 1990.
Wow.
So it is 90 years old. And when you watch it, again, you're not committing a lot of time, similar to the movie that we talked about last week. You're committing an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
When you watch it, there are so many traditional Halloween vampire things that come from this movie. At one point, there's right at the very beginning, there's the wolves howling, and he's like, it's the children of the night. And I'm like, oh man, how often do we hear the children of the night? And just so many different things that come from this movie.
The Phantom of the Opera has a whole song about it.
Yes, he does.
I also want to say, I'm pretty sure he created the first Darth Vader death grip.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's what's amazing is there is so much in this movie that sets the tone and the pace and builds up the suspense without having to rely on a lot of the things that people use today to do that same thing. And it's, camera angles, lighting tricks, the fact that there's very little music in this movie, very little score. And so that just kind of sets the tone as well. And the guy who plays his assistant, Renfro or whatever his name is, that real estate guy that he turns into and his psychotic laugh is way creepy. Like, there's just a lot to really love about this movie if you're into the horror genre, because it was one of the earlier entries in that genre.
Well, and it's interesting too, because this movie was made on a very low budget, which is surprising because there's some gorgeous matte painting work. Like in the beginning, when the carriage is traveling to Castle Dracula, and they have this beautiful cliff mountain facade painting, and then they have the cart traveling in front of it. I'm like, that's some pretty advanced work there, especially for the budget. It was made they bought the rights for, I think, $40,000 and that's why they still own the rights to Dracula, the Bram Stoker version. But they did not want to, the producers did not want to cast, sorry, brain freeze, Bela Lugosi. I almost said somebody else. They didn't want to cast Bela Lugosi, but he was playing Dracula on a stage production. And it came out to Los Angeles, and one of the producers really wanted him and was like, you need to go see this. And it came to Los Angeles. The other producers went to it, and then Bela Lugosi basically talked his way into the role. And the way he got it was he was only paid $500 a week for 7 weeks of filming.
Wow. Wow.
But it really made a name for him because, when you think of Dracula and you know anything about it, you think of Bela Lugosi. And he's been in, he's passed now, but he's been in a lot of things portraying himself as that character in other movies since then. Because, he's just this iconic character in person that we know.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what's interesting about the vampire genre is, as I was saying before I froze up there, there's so many different ways that you can take it. And so you have the movie and now the TV series spinoff, What We Do in the Shadows, which is a mockumentary about the vampires. Small spoiler here, but the new movie or the series on Netflix, Midnight Mass, which is probably one of my favorite vampire stories I've ever seen. Okay, you're safe.
I'm watching it tonight. So
so good.
Oh wait, no, I'm not. I'm going to bachelor party tonight. I'm watching it tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, 7 episodes. Check it out. But I've always loved that genre, and it's so funny too because there's these established rules,
Mhm.
where they don't like the cross, and in this one they don't like the wolf's bane, which is mentioned in the book, but that's one that's forgotten a lot. Um, but then you have movies like Twilight, which completely break those rules and create their own different type of vampire, which I think is okay. I
There
didn't
was a lot of
love
cape,
those
there was a
movies.
lot of cape work in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cape
I
work.
liked all
Yes.
the usage of cape was
Yes,
great.
there was. And it was well done.
Yeah,
Usage of
one of the actors said that Bela Lugosi in between takes would practice his cape.
Should we call it capeography?
Yes,
Yes.
capography. I think that's what we'll call it, capography.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some incredible capography in this one. And in the film we talked about last week, there's a lot of great underwater cinematography. This has a lot of capography that's really
Mhm.
good. Yeah.
Beyonce has a lot of good hairography.
Yeah, she
This is
does.
true.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
Um, but speak of other ads that are played way too much. We talked about the Old Navy ad last week. The
Mhm.
new Beyonce and Jay-Z, that's who she's with, right? Jay-Z
Yeah.
ad for Tiffany Diamonds plays way too much on streaming services because I just think every time, is the audience for Tiffany's really watching non-ad free Hulu right now? I just really feel like they could
Maybe they're
afford,
trying to get new clientele.
maybe. Well, yeah, maybe. It's a great commercial, and I love that anyway, but it's all too much. So, one of my guilty pleasure favorite movies to watch around this time of year is Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman, and it is such a bad movie.
It's a terrible movie.
It is
It's
a
so
terrible,
good
terrible
though.
movie.
It's so good though.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like you just watch it, and it's like it's terrible, but it doesn't matter. It's
Right.
just fun. And I always thought that Van Helsing has got to be my favorite. But then I rewatched this, and it's an old professor type Van Helsing, but that dude is awesome. Like
Yes.
it's just like nothing scares him. Like at
Nothing
one
pleases
point
him.
when Dracula's like threatening him, and he's just standing there like all casual, like, okay, what? Like all the cards are out on the table. They know that this is the vampire. They know, and Dracula comes closer to him, and he just like whips out the cross. He's like, I don't have Wolfsbane. I've got this. Like he just knows what he's doing, and he's so confident. I'm like, no, this guy's awesome. I don't care what anybody says. Forget Hugh Jackman. This is the Van Helsing for me. This old guy. That's what I want to be when I'm old. Just a vampire hunter. It's fine.
I really liked the usage of light in this film.
Yes.
Because I feel like it has been copied so many times now.
Mhm.
But just like you said, Jake, they didn't use a lot of music, which is usually you have in movies like this, you have that score that keeps the audience kind of moving forward and getting ready for what's coming and that kind of stuff. But in this movie, it was a lot of usage of light.
Mhm.
To cheat a lot of different things, but also to make you feel certain things depending on what light was being depicted in the scenes. Like anytime there was a female in the scene, the light was brighter yet softer. And
Mhm.
anytime you had Bela Lugosi in a scene and they were trying to make him menacing or mysterious, it was almost dark all the way around him, except for kind of the harsh
The
light
one
on.
stripe of light.
Yeah. So it
Mhm.
was really just interesting how they did that because again, like Tracy said, really low budget. And so you have to get super creative with the way that you're helping the audience feel what you want them to feel outside of the dialogue.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that, like really paying it to, like, I kind of want to go back and watch it without any dialogue and just pay attention to what's happening in the scenes
Mhm.
with the lighting and the camera angles.
Yeah, and the reason there's no music is because they just didn't have the budget for it. So they used some music at the beginning from Swan Lake, and that's pretty much all the music you get.
Yeah.
which was different. I had forgotten about that. I had seen this before, but I had forgotten about how there's no music in this film.
But you notice it because somehow, and I'm not saying this would work for every film or every filmmaker style, but somehow they do it and use it to their advantage. Like, and I love it when a filmmaker does that. Like, we don't have a budget for a score. Okay, well then I'm going to try to pace this and do it different so that it works without the score. I know that's not going to be there.
Right.
and to make the most out of that, the way that they did it with the lighting and the acting, and it still sets the mood so well. Like you don't miss the score not being there, and in reality, it probably makes some of those moments more intense than it would otherwise.
Yeah. And it was interesting too watching this and noticing some of those matte painting backgrounds, and they used to just paint them on glass, so that they could like shoot through them. And I was thinking about it, and that technique is still being used today. We're just doing it digitally. Whereas when they're making the TV series The Mandalorian, I can't remember, what do they call that contraption, that building?
The void.
No, it's not the void. It's
No,
something else.
Oh,
it's the rounded
Yeah, it's
room that
rounded
they're
ceiling.
in, and I can't
Anyway,
remember what it's called.
they're basically doing the same thing. They've got a projection on the background there, and then they have props in the foreground. That's exactly what they were doing in Dracula. They're just doing it even better.
Well, and I love how, if you think about so many movies that try and portray this big ominous monster, in the hill, they did it in Edward Scissorhands,
Mhm.
which I know Edward Scissorhands was very much based on those monster movies, like with Bela Lugosi and like all of that, because the director was very much into those films. And then if you look at the Bram Stoker Dracula from the 90s, they have the same type of castle that you're coming up to. And
Mhm.
even in Beauty and the Beast, the animated version, you're coming up to this big ominous castle on the hill where the monster lives. And
Mhm.
so it really did set the tone on, visually, because you've seen it before somewhere, that if you see something, that you're coming up to on a hill, that castle, something not right is there. And I
Right.
think
Right.
it's really, it's translated, it's like, it just, this movie, I think, really shows you respect for what it did and everything that came after it. Like, a lot of people show Star
Mhm.
Wars respect because they created so many things, that because they didn't have the technology
Or the
for what they wanted for the movie, so they had to create it, which opened up things for other movies. But this movie itself didn't have a budget. I mean, the trailer has a score, so maybe that's where they put all
all the
the
score
music.
budget went into the trailer.
But trailer sells movies, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
and back then, like, they really, like, trailers were short versions of the movie. It wasn't like what we have now.
Right.
They're very different feel. And I jumped down a rabbit hole last night watching all of these old movie trailers, and it was so much fun. But I really respect this film, watching it now that I'm older and I've seen all of these other movies that have taken things from this movie, whether they thought they were or not.
Mhm.
For sure. And I think with the vampire genre, and we've talked about it, I think one of the big differences is, we watched Creature from the Black Lagoon last week and we talked about it. And a lot of these monster movies, the monster in the movie is this big lumbering whatever, mindless in some way, brutish
Mhm.
very often, and things like that.
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, Frankenstein's monster is a good example. Um, and mindless, like the Wolfman when he becomes the
Mhm.
Wolfman. But then you get to a vampire, and vampires are dangerous in a very different way. It's not necessarily the brute strength. They have that. They
Right.
have greater strength and everything typically, but they're very seductive. And I
Mhm.
don't mean that just in a sexual way, but just they're very charismatic, and that's how they win you over. And that's what we
Mhm.
see. And to me, that's more frightening than a monster like Frankenstein's monster or the creature from the Black Lagoon, because he wins these people over. He gains Lucy and Nina's trust because he's very charismatic and seductive, and they're drawn to him. And that's almost more powerful than just being big and scary.
Mhm.
That's
That's more
great.
frightening in a lot of ways. And
It's
that's something
manipulative, and
true. Yeah,
you get a lot of things from a person being that way. And I think also that's what, it's romantic. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, what all of these monster movies have in common is that there is this very weird, like, romantic thought about it.
Mhm.
Whereas you're making it as a date movie, and back then, they, I don't know if they realized it at the time, but like, all of these movies are kind of made for women, as
Uh-huh.
much as they're monster movies or whatever. Like, there is that, I'm going to be rescued, or something supernatural out there that's mysterious, that's, that's going to, entice me. And Dracula is very much that thing.
Yeah.
And I love that because that's from the book. That's very much in the book. And it's kind of been built into the mythos of the vampire from the beginning. There was a great movie that played I saw it at Sundance back in the 90s called The Addiction. And it basically treated the vampire as a drug addict, making that parallel where it has to feed. And it's just this overpowering hunger that it has to take care of because it's addicted to this what gives it life. So there's many different ways that you can come at the vampire genre. It doesn't always have to be the stereotypical one, which kind of Dracula 1931 is now because it established a lot. It was the first real version of the vampire Dracula story. Nosferatu came out first,
Right.
but it's not Bram Stoker's Dracula. This was the first version of that story. Yeah.
Well, and I love that they kind of pay homage a little bit to Nosferatu in this, because when Van Helsing's first describing vampires in general, and he's like, yes, it's the Nosferatu from, and he kind of describes the vampire based on that. And so I thought that was kind of a neat thing, because I'm sure that's a nod to that
That
film.
wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
But yeah, it has a lot of the mythos of vampires in general is built on what starts here in Dracula and goes from there. And you mentioned that it's okay for them to go and break the rules. It depends on how they do it, I think. But yes, but a lot of it has been so well established. I mean, this establishes for the first time on screen, really well. It establishes the aversion to the cross, the wolfsbane, like you mentioned, the shape shifting that vampires do, which is typically into a bat, which is what he says, but also sometimes into a wolf in this one, apparently. But also,
too. Yeah.
Yeah. And also the aversion to sunlight. And also, you've got to stab
with a wooden stake through the heart.
Yep. And they add a little bit more depth on it when they say he's got to be in the soil of his birth country. And so which he had to bring with him. He's got to go every day back to his soil.
Okay. There's an episode of What We Do in the Shadows, and the vampires who live in New Jersey, or they live on Long Island, they go to Atlantic City and they each bring some of their dirt from their home country with them, and they put them underneath the bed, like underneath the mattress, so that they can sleep. And then they go out to go hang out at the casino, because at the casino you never know if it's daytime or nighttime, so they can just hang out there. There's no windows, there's no exposure, and housekeeping comes to the hotel room and vacuums up all of the dirt. And when they come back to their room, they're like, I can't sleep, I can't get comfortable, and so they have to send their familiar across the country, or excuse me, across the globe. He has to travel to all the different places that these vampires were originally from to collect soil from their homeland so that they can get some sleep. And
I love it. And the thing is, I think the vampire genre has become so big that you have to, if you're going to make something, you've got to be able to be true to its roots like that.
Yes.
Or like for people that aren't necessarily hardcore vampire enthusiasts, they'll be like, okay, well, that's, fun and cute. But for someone who is, it's like, okay, good. I appreciate that they understand the source material, and people are weird.
And that was my problem with the Twilight stories, is at first when I heard about how they could go out into light and they could do these things, I'm like, oh, okay, she's taking a spin on these vampire stories. And then I read an article with her, and this is before the movies came out. But then I read an article with her, and she said, I just thought that's how vampires were. I never really studied the genre before. And I'm like, I'm out. Like you have to know the rules before you break the rules, type of thing.
Tracy, I hate to break this to you, but none of those books were written for you.
I know. Oh, I'm well aware, but
I'm not saying you can't read them or enjoy them. However,
the only way I managed to make it through the first movie is when I did the MST3K version, the spin-off, the riff tracks. Yeah. I had to listen to their commentary making jokes about it in order to make it through.
Yeah. And Val's got a good point. It wasn't written for you. It wasn't written for me. And I get that. But I also do agree, like if you're playing in a sandbox that's really well established, you do have to understand what some of the parameters are. Yeah. And you have to understand that if you're making changes, you have
why
to
you're
what
making those
changes and why you're making those changes. And I think if you're just like, oh, I think vampires are cool, and they're these creatures that drink blood and don't like sunlight, right? Well, what if they do like sunlight? It's just that they glitter in the sunlight. Like you need to understand. I don't know.
I'm with you. Yeah. And at first I thought, oh, okay, she's putting a spin on it, because I think that this Dracula story has been told so many times. You have to put the fresh spin on it, which is why, and no spoilers, but that's one of the reasons that I really liked Midnight Mass, was the way that they put a spin on the original story.
Yeah. And I think that that's great. And I love that this has become something so big. I was really big into vampires a lot when I was
Same.
a teenager. And so
Same.
I love anything that covers the roots of it. Even and some of the movie, like one of my favorite 80s cheesy movies is The Lost Boys, which
Oh
is just,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so great. And and it is so 80s, and that just makes it beautiful all the more. But
When I was at USC, we had to choose a film to do like our last big paper on, and that's the movie I chose. But I was
Nice.
also a 17-year-old girl, so
yeah,
like that was super into vampires, and I was like the Lost Boys, like I was like, this is a classic, right?
yeah.
Totally. I
And I
love that you did your final paper on that. That's fantastic. I didn't know that story.
Yep, I did my thesis paper on the Lost Boys.
I love that.
but I do think because there is so much out there on vampires that when you do something where you're like, I'm just going to do my own thing and I don't know anything about it, it really just sticks out so much more, because it's like, well, that's not how vampires work. Well, they're
Mhm.
fictional, so I can do whatever I want. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of, but they've got a pretty well established
Yeah.
what they are. And so, but anyway, enough about Twilight. I don't know why we're talking so much about it. Tracy's obsessed with it.
But Robert Pattinson, man, he's gone on to have a really interesting career. I got to give that guy a lot of credit, because he could have just either faded away, or he could have done the whole heartthrob thing. And instead, he's picked some really interesting directors and really interesting roles. And I'm excited to see what he does as the Batman.
Me too.
Hopefully the Batman does for him similar to what like Deadpool did for Ryan Reynolds, in that
Mhm.
Ryan Reynolds had the run as a superhero in Green Lantern, and everybody was like, that was awful. And Deadpool really kind of put him back in the mainstream culture, because I don't know that he was that big a star, as big as he is now, before
Right.
Deadpool.
Right. Absolutely. That
And
helped
I
him into
and
a
I
different
think Robert Pattinson's super talented, but people just ignore a lot of what he's done because he's the vampire guy from Twilight. Nobody
Well, if you
respects.
want to wipe that from your brain really quickly, watch The Lighthouse, and I
Oh yeah.
pre-apologize if you watch that movie, because it's traumatizing.
Yeah.
But it will take everything that is Twilight about Robert Pattinson out of your mind
Blow it up.
forever. But
Mhm.
again, I apologize if you do
Oh,
actually watch that movie.
But the thing is, the Batman has the potential to really do that, because I think it will be a big blockbuster type
Yes.
film. And The Lighthouse, although I think a lot of people saw it, it wasn't the big blockbuster.
A black and white movie with just two guys, William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, talking in weird accents. Come on.
Which brings us back to Dracula from 1931.
Both are black and white.
I want to talk about the accents in Dracula for a
Right.
minute, because Bela Lugosi's great. His accent, obviously has become iconic. You've got Van Helsing, who's doing an accent. You've got like the medical ward guy in the asylum, who does an accent. But this movie takes place primarily in England, and none of the other characters have an accent, and it drives me crazy.
But let me say that England during that time had a lot of people from all over the world living there.
That's fair. and maybe
But I feel like they started a precedence, because every time we see any of these similar characters in cartoons or in mockumentaries or in series or whatever, they all have these ridiculous accents, and it all started right here.
yeah,
in this
it
movie.
really is. Yeah, everybody's trying to mimic or exaggerate Dracula's accent from this movie.
Good evening. Yeah.
But don't say blah blah blah.
Or the Count from Sesame Street, even. 1, 2, 3, like it's totally.
But I think,
and that's how iconic this film became.
yeah. Didn't the gardener and the didn't the groundskeeper have a British accent or an Irish accent or something? Or
he had an accent. I don't know where it was from.
Yeah,
well, that's the thing.
Trying to.
They had other accents in there. It's just the main characters, and like you said, Val, they had people living all over or from all over living in England. But I thought they were English, and they just were like, well, we're not going to worry about doing an English accent for these folks. But over here, we've got German and Transylvanian, which I don't know if that's how Transylvanians actually sound. I don't think it really is. But
then you have the really bad accents from the extras in the mountain village at the very beginning.
yes.
Just extras. They're not even like Bela Lugosi was like a skilled actor. These
Yeah.
people are just like, you want to be in a movie? Come on over here. And then say this like with a Hungarian accent.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know what that means. So
we don't either. Go with it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Nobody does. It'll be fine. Nobody's going to watch
Maybe
this.
they went back and watched those and they were like, you know what? Let's not make anyone else have to do an accent.
They filmed that early and realized
It's kind of like Robin Hood.
Yes, I knew you were going to go there. Kevin Costner's.
Like, he doesn't need one.
Yeah.
We're okay without it because I feel like if they would have had him do it,
it would draw more attention to it. Yeah.
Listen, the trauma of being in the Crusades for him just wiped his accent away. He came back with an American Midwesterner accent. It's fine. And I don't know why it stood out to me. I think it was just because there were so many other accents and they didn't do that one. It was just interesting. Yes. So, but
they didn't have a budget to hire people that could do an English accent.
Right.
Yeah.
And this was filmed in LA. So
yeah.
Because otherwise, this is weird to me. This has always kind of interested me, is it seems like English actors can do an American accent easier than American actors can do a British accent.
Yep, that's
because they know how, like, we talk in such a generic way, and they know all they have to do is open their mouth more than they regularly do, and they can talk like us.
Well, and I think the other thing too is I think most of the stars that we see that come from England that make it really big, they've been like trained. Like a lot of the actors in England are more classically trained typically than I think some of the bigger movie stars that we have here. Not all of them, and that's a generalization and a broad stroke, and I get that, but
I also think there was a period of time that Americans had all of the good movies, the big blockbuster movies, so they knew the only way they were going to make money is if they could get that accent, whereas us, Americans, we don't care. You're going to hire us anyway, right? We don't need to learn anything outside of our regular everyday stuff.
But the majority of people who try and do a British accent, it just becomes like the Cockney, "Hey, governor,"
Eliza Doolittle.
So it's been a couple of episodes since I've done this, but there was some TikTok videos circulating TikTok not too long ago where some lady was trying to do a British accent and she was like, "Would you like some water?" And so all these British TikTokers got on and they're like, "Okay, first of all, that is not how we sound at all," and like just tore her apart.
Did you just watch Oliver? What's happening?
Like, this is not. Nobody says it like that. And you really shouldn't be making fun of us because you say things like this. And then anyway, so it was just kind of a funny little thing that happened for
they
like
start ripping on the Southern accent.
Yeah. So
what did we learn? TikTok is mean. Don't go there.
Yeah, TikTok's mean, Jake.
Not all of it. Some of it's actually really nice.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Some of us are too old to be on that channel, but it's okay.
You're not. I've seen old people on there. It's fine.
That's why the kids invented TikTok, was to get away from people my age getting on their social media.
Well, it has been unsuccessful because of the there. So TikTok's a weird place, and you should definitely go in understanding that before you go in. But it can be as weird or as not weird as you want it to be. You just search for the right videos, and then you're out.
That's also Google.
Yeah, it's anything. Anything. The internet in general is as weird or as not weird as you want it to be.
I get like people, Dave and my daughter Sammy, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, look at this," and I'm like, "Where did you find that?" They're like, "YouTube," and I'm like, "Those aren't I don't know where you're going to find." I don't spend a lot of time on the internet. Like if I have to do something for work or if I have to look something up, but I don't spend hours of the day down rabbit holes looking for weird crap.
Yeah.
But I know people that are really, really good at it.
I have friends that are really good at it, and I just kind of watch their feed to kind of see what they're picking up. But yeah.
Yeah. It's, but yeah, you can definitely find stuff or not. It just depends on what you're doing. Okay. I get in here coughing. It's fine. Don't even worry about it.
I did try to buy the URL yourmom.com the other day because Mike on my morning show partner made a your mom joke.
Ooh.
And he's like, yourmom.com. And I'm like, oh, do we need to own that? And somebody owns it, but they've done nothing with it. I don't like that.
Yeah,
if
they're
you're
just
gonna own yourmom.com, do something with it.
Well, did you see that when Facebook had their big outage? What was it last week? That
I was taking a nap during the whole thing.
Yeah, so during
I
their
didn't
big
even know
outage,
it happened.
Like the whole site just basically went down, and it popped up on like GoDaddy.com and other website purchasing places, so you could purchase Facebook.com.
Wow.
My favorite was Twitter said basically, hello, everyone.
Yeah. And TikTok did the same thing. Oh, so you're off Facebook. Well, welcome to TikTok. Come see what we're all about. And it just so happened my wife was having a phone issue, so we had to call the phone company, like her cell phone company. And it took forever to connect with somebody because everybody was calling thinking that it was an issue with their phone service. And so they had a recording right at the beginning. If you're having issues with Facebook or the Facebook family of apps, this is a Facebook issue. Stop calling us is basically what the message said, but more politely. But
that's brilliant.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, it caused a lot of issues. When Facebook goes down like that, it's a big deal.
I feel like they pulled a Free Guy and somebody just reboot it.
Yeah.
It's gotten too evil.
Well, yeah, it was like right after the testimony comes out about how they like put profits before safety of their customers. And I love that these stories come out in the United States and then people are like surprised when a big corporation has put profits first. And we're like,
that's what America is based on. Except for our show. We're all about just entertaining you. We make nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, we'd have to start making profits to put them first. So obviously that's not our concern with this show.
We put you first. We put entertainment first.
I thought Colin was bankrolling you, Jake. He's not?
Nope.
Bankrolling him with high fives.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, so Dracula, we should probably give the movie a grade now that I love our tangents. In the last couple of weeks, we've just, at the end of the show, just gone on this major tangent. But we talked about the movie.
It's the first 8 minutes of the show and the last 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
But at least we stayed on topic for the most part, unlike the Karate Kid episode.
Correct. We got some feedback from our good friend Stefan, who told us, you guys didn't even talk about the Karate Kid in that episode. We talked about Dracula this time. So as you're listening, just know we talked about the movie this time. All right.
It's our show. We do what we want.
That's true.
We probably should have, though, talked about Karate Kid.
Yeah.
I know. We really should have talked about it more. Which is why when we do release the Back to the Future episode, it will not be labeled as a Back to the Future episode because the only thing we mentioned from the movie was the stupid Nike shoes. Oh my God.
That was the biggest tangent we've ever had.
That was so much needed. It was just like we were all so tired from FanX. We were just
we haven't seen our friends in person for a long time.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun and it was really nice.
Why don't you just release that the day that I'm gone?
We could. I could work on putting that out. And then we don't have to do a new episode. Tracy and I always get nervous when it's just the two of us. We've gotten better, but we're always afraid we're going to do Pacific Rim all over again.
We should go back and revisit that movie one of these days and replace
us. Yeah, with someone better.
That's a good movie. It deserves a good discussion, and we didn't do it.
Didn't get that. Speaking of good movies, what are we going to grade Dracula? We'll start with you this time, Val.
I'm going with a solid B. I really like these movies. They're super entertaining. I really respect this film. I do think that even though, like we said, it's only like an hour 20 or something like that, there are some parts of the film that feels like it does get a little long for me. The pacing, and maybe it is because it doesn't have music, but the pacing sometimes does get a little bit stale. But I really enjoyed watching the film, and I think what I wish I would have given myself enough time would be to like watch this movie and then Bram Stoker's Dracula and then, you know, a couple of the other Dracula movies after, and just like have a day of Dracula, because I really liked remembering kind of how this started it, and then how they really beefed it up in all of the movies to come. So yeah, solid B for me.
Awesome. Tracy?
I'm going to go with B as well. I'm with Val. The lack of music, it was a little weird to me. I had forgotten that there was really no music for this film. But it is fun. There are a few parts where it feels a little bit long, but it's short enough that you can get through it. I mean, it's an hour and 20 minutes. Bela Lugosi's classic take on the character. Everybody has seen the stills of him with the cape and the menacing eyes, but he brings a lot of gravitas to that role. And really, really brings a lot of intensity to it. I like the fact that they knew their limitations. They didn't try and show a transformation from a bat into the vampire or into the wolf. It happens off screen. The rubber bats are a little silly, but you got to remember this is 1931. There was, they're limited in what they can do, but the cinematography is really interesting. The matte painting work is really good. The acting is quite good, especially for the time. And I'm going to go solid B on this one as well, Val.
I'm going to go a little bit higher and just give it an A-, just because I think the movie is solid. I think it's entertaining. I think it's really well done. It does have some issues where it does feel slow at parts, for sure. But I think just because of the impact that it had on the genre and everything that came after it, that's why I put it in the A- range. If it was just a little bit tighter in the story, I'd put it as an A for sure.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
Enjoyable. And if you haven't seen it, again, it's on Peacock. You can check it out. Yeah, so definitely do that. And this one was nice because they played ads at the beginning when I started watching it, but then they didn't play ads throughout, and so we didn't have the like random interruption of the ads while I was watching. So, but anyway, definitely check it out. Make sure you stay tuned to everything Movies That Make Us so you can get details about our event that's coming up at the end of the month, where we are supporting the American Cancer Society and Tracy and his running. And that will be at the Midway in Midvale, right?
Yep, right off Fort Union, October 29th, 7 to midnight. And stay tuned to our page because we're going to share all sorts of Val's wedding happiness. So we're excited for that as well.
That's correct. So we've got two big things happening this month that we'll be sharing details about, and that is what's happening at the Midway on October 29th, as well as the wedding of the year, Val and Dave tied the knot.
The series finale.
It's the series finale.
And then we'll have the spinoff.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us on all the places, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And until next time, we won't see you at the movies.
This is not a vampire song.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.